Okay, so welcome everyone. My name's Anita Thompson of Art Venture Workshops. It's a pleasure to be teaching you this morning as we draw the winter hiding owl. As I mentioned, for those that are just kind of popping on, you need a regular number 2 pencil with an eraser, and then also a tortillon or blending stump. If you don't have a blending tool, you can use sort of a piece of, maybe rip off a piece of paper towel or tissue or your finger. Oh, nice, Ashley. And hello, Ashley. Great to see you. And so that's pretty much what we are going to be using. Welcome, Barbara. Just gonna put you on mute just because we're recording. It's great to see you. So I just mentioned we're just using a regular number 2 pencil with an eraser and also a tortillon. And those are our basics. And then I just want to briefly introduce you to 2 things. So first being the pencils. If you're getting serious about doing, doing these shading tutorials or, anything with shading, a number 2 pencil is fine. And, it's useful. But you can also go to Michael's or order on Amazon and get art pencils. They come in basically different levels of darkness and lightness. They start off with an HB, which is sort of very similar to a number 2 pencil, a regular number 2 pencil. And they go up from there, including, a really good darkness of, let's see, well, this is a 4B. Let's see if you guys can see that. Oh, I'm going too close to the camera here. This is a 4B, which is kind of in the middle, and it goes all the way up to, I think I have an 8B, but I've seen a 10B. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Chrissy. She shared a file in the meeting. Perfect. So, and I can send over, when I send over the recording to Chrissy, I will link also just a description for the pencils. So, got that taken care of. And then just want to quickly go over some what is called mark making. The reason I'm doing that is because we won't be making all of these marks, but this is also an example of mark making that I will also include when I send the recording to Chrissy. Different ways to complete a drawing. So we've got hatching, which we're going to actually use a bit of that. Hatching is doing one way of shading, and it's short strokes, as you can see. And then the next is cross hatching, which is then using the hatching, but then going in the opposite direction so that you get cross hatching. And again, it's a tonal quality that's really nice, provides some texture. And then we just have basically tonal, which is really doing shading and going around with your pencil. We've got stippling, which is taking, little dots, which is kind of painstaking. I really admire people that have the patience to do that. We won't be using that one. And then there's scumbling, which, if you can see, it's little round circles of shading, and you keep them with that texture. And again, this just provides texture, and it's something different. And then we've got smudging, which is, we also are going to be doing a little bit of that. So it's basically using your blending tool, and then also then going over it with a darker value, so that you have a smooth area, and then still a smooth area, but a darker area. So I will also link this in with the recording. Okay, so we're going to get started here. And basically, Another quick thing I just wanted to show you again. I show this a lot in my drawing tutorials here, is sort of some tonal practice, going from dark to light. And it's numbered, 9 being the darkest, 1 being the lightest. And this is just something you can do with your pencil. You can actually practice this at home too. And it kind of just shows you the values of going from extremely light to extremely dark. So we're going to be thinking about this as we're doing the drawing. Okay, so sorry for that lengthy introduction. Just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of background with that. And I'll also link this in the, when I send it to Chrissy, the recording. Okay, so without further ado, we'll get started. Okay, so we are using the full length of our paper here. Let me just go up a little bit so you can see a little more. There we go. And we're going to start off with our basic shape. So we're looking at the owl as our basic shape. Also, just want to remind everyone, if this isn't large for you, you want to make sure that you are on speaker view, because I've spotlighted the video. So we're going to start sort of a little bit in the middle and to the left of our paper. And we're going to start first with the shape of the owl and the tree. So starting here at the left, we're going to start with the top of the head. And again, you're going to be making this a lot lighter than I will be. So we're starting with just a little bit of the curve of the head. Welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I'm late.
No, no problem. I'm just going to mute you just because we are recording.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. So starting with the head, we just have it curved for now. And then from there, we're going to make the slant of our tree happening. So here's our tree, the start of it. Here's our owl. And we're also going to make just that sort of opening right here in the tree. And then once we do that, we're just going to then create sort of a jagged line that's going to go downward. This is where our owl is going to be peeking out from. And you can fix this as we get further into it. But we just want to get an idea about of where it's ending up so that we can start to sketch our owl in there as well. Okay. All right. So now that we have that, we're now going to draw our attention over to the owl. And let me go in a little closer here. There we go. Okay, so we're now going to start off and add the ear. So the ear shape is slightly bent. And so I'm creating it as if I'm using just lines at first, and then we kind of round things out. So this is the ear. And it's always easier to do that in drawing to begin with. If we look at creating 2 points, just so you know, if we're looking at 2 points here and or actually 3 points, this is just something I'm showing you. We can always kind of round out where those points connect. but it's so much easier to start off doing things with straight lines, because we then are able to adjust where we need to round things off. So just something to consider when you're drawing. So we're going to continue now down into the ear. We're going downward. This is the eye area. So we're making this section, and the eye is not too far from it. It actually goes in a little more. And we're going to make the eye shape like this. And that shape is going to go into the nose area. So for now, what we're doing is making the shape of the area, the eye area, and then also the beak area. So as you can see, I have to adjust this section a bit because it goes inward so that the beak can kind of lay in there a little easier. I have to do a little more adjusting. And then we have our beak. So I'm going to adjust it to about right here for now. So you should have something that looks like this. And right now it looks like a happy owl. Once you have that, you can also add a bit of the round part of the eyeball of the owl. Got somebody else coming in. So we're then going to add the round part of the eye, and we'll adjust accordingly as we go along. Welcome, Arush.
Siamo chato, io então che non amo in italiano. Come di me, sei pronta?
Hi, Arush. Welcome. I just had to put you on mute just because we're recording, but it's great to have you. Okay, so once we have that eye area sort of circled in here or penciled in, we also just want to make underneath the eye. This is going to be the start of the feathers. So for now, we're just going to kind of make this shape for those feathers. And then we're going to be continuing downward for the shape of the owl. And then we can start to get into more of the details. So the owl body is going to come out here. Here's our point, and then it's going to go towards the tree. And we have the wing coming out. This is the shape of the wing. I know it blends in very well with the trunk area, and I kind of did that on purpose. So this is the shape of our wing. It's going to be straight, and then it comes out a bit and then goes downward and then goes back towards our tree here. And then we have the rest of our tree happening around it with a little bit of an area right here that we're just gonna make look like that. So this is our general shape of our owl. And may have to bring out the face on the left here just a little bit more as I'm looking at it. Just a little bit more here. There we go. I went a little bit too close to the eye on that one. So here is our general shape. We're also going to add some general marks for the tree. So I'm going to move this in closer. And we're going to start to add in the general marks of the tree. So we have the main one over here next to our owl, and we're going to solidify that one a little more with the shape. So we're going to start at the top, and it's basically that shape, but it kind of curves a little bit like so. So we've got a little bit more of some bumpiness going on that we just want to add to this. So this is where we're doing that. And it starts to kind of dip again. Goes down a little bit straighter, got some more bumps. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect or look exactly like mine. And then it goes out a little bit down here. Going to continue up here on the other side. So again, just making this look a little more tree-like. We're going to continue on with the tree to the right side with some of those marks. So coming back in towards our owl, there's sort of a big kind of tree mark here. And the way that we're going to illustrate that for now is going to be kind of sketchy, like so. It goes off to the right. So talking about all of this mark making right here, all of these. So we're just going to be briefly touching on those, and then we'll go back for the detail. So for instance, we have some sketchy area here, and I'm using the side of my pencil in order to illustrate that just quickly. And again, we'll go back and do it a little better. So again, your marks should be light. We've got some more here. So this is going to be more of sort of the side of the pencil kind of mark making. We're working slowly back towards our owl here. We're just kind of giving some texture to the tree. So we're now following next to the tree here with our mark making. And then we'll go back and just fill in some of the smaller parts. We have another piece right here. It's kind of going up a bit. And then we have a few straight lines, just giving you that idea of the wood grain. And we now have our general shape of an owl peeking out. And we can start with our detail now. So again, we're going to be thinking about our mark making in the sense of using quite a bit of texture. I'm going to just show this up close, just so you can kind of see the difference. So a lot of these lighter lines, and a lot of the lines actually, are using the side of the pencil and going back and forth, creating texture. So it looks like scribbling, but it's intentional scribbling. And then we add on darker areas of it when we start to do shading. And then the key to having it look realistic is on top of having a lighter scribbling or shading, we also add darker parts. And that's what you see here. And you even see it here and here. So we layer the drawing. Drawings, any kind of art really is layered. So if anyone's ever used Photoshop before, back in the day, you know, they use layers, and it's very much the same way in drawing and any art. It's a way to break everything down by steps and layers. So let's continue now with starting our detail. Move this in the camera view a little better. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to start with the owl first, and then we'll finish up with the tree since the owl is more detailed. So we're going to start over here, and basically we're just going to reshape the head just slightly. We're going to add this shape right here. So this becomes more of a small triangle shape, and I'm going to go closer so that you can really see the detail. And let me adjust my lighting there. There we go. Okay, so what we've done first is we've just adjusted a bit of the head right here, and you can leave this area because we're going to be filling that in with dark. And then this part, I want you to start to kind of erase it so that the line is still there, but we're going to start adding sort of the fuzziness to it. So first we're going to come over here and we're going to shade in this triangular area, and that's going to be sort of dark. And then we're going to start to go across, and we're going to add short little strokes as if hair is sticking up, because that's what we want. We want the fur to be sticking up. And you're going to go right towards the tree here. And then you can fill in the hole in the tree right here, right by your owl's head. Once we do that, we're going to go back to the ear. So we're going to make a left here and go to the ear. And we're going to create just a little bit of a light shaded line right here. And we're going to start shading this ear with scratchy, light scratchy intention. But first, I just want to make this ear just a little bit thinner up here and less boxier. So erasing this part and then just making it a little more thinner. And then we're going to shade this area very light like this. So the whole area of the ear right now, you're just kind of shading quickly. And then we're going to start rounding out this part of the ear. So right where that point is, we now just want to make it a little more round. And then you can erase that point. So we just created a better shape of the ear, but we were able to get the angles pretty right by using straight lines. And then we've got some darker shading happening along the edge of this ear. And I'm shading up and down because of the fur. So what I'm doing is shading up and down and also letting it stick up a little bit. I'm just going to show that up close. It's a little bit rough looking right now, but the idea is to go up and down so that you're thinking about the fur. Then we're going to go into the ear. And there's a darker shaded spot going towards here. We're going to come out towards this part of the ear. And there is another kind of shaded spot happening right above the eyelid, which we will draw in next. So this is where the start of the feathers are happening in the face. So this is around the edge of it. And now we're going to come up here and we're going to create a little more of some darker shading. And it's going to go right along this area. And then we're going to get a little more intentional with our darkness, which happens right at the edge here, because this is where the inner ear is happening. And then we're going to curve a bit. And add some more dark shading around here. And this other area of the ear. Again, we're just thinking about our, our different tones of how dark and light things are. Again, this. And then you can shape the ear a little better with some more intentional drawing. And you may have to go back and, make some sections darker, but that's okay. It's always better to go lighter at first. And then we're going to come down into the eye. And we're actually going to now create the eyelid, which goes up just slightly and then goes back down towards the nose, or I should say towards the sort of bridge of the nose area, like so. And I'm going to take this opportunity to make it a little bit darker on the around the beak. And now we're going to shape the eye. So we're now working in the eye area. So we want to make that lid. And then the eye lid kind of comes out a little bit around near the eye or the eyeball. And then I'm intentionally kind of making a shape like this because we're going to be shading around that. So you should have a shape like this. The eyelid. We also have a bit of the overhang happening right here, right above the eyelid. Oops, sorry for bumping the camera there. And then we're going to start lightly shading down to the left of the eye. So extremely light. Really, really light in this fashion and going towards the edge of the owl. And it's okay if your lines, your shading lines are going a little bit over the line for the owl because we're going to create the fur. And we're going to be making that a little more fur-like. The next thing we want to do with our shading is we're now going to go around this area that we created. This area is the feathering. And in order to make it look furry, we're going to go a little bit darker with our shading. And we're going to start kind of cutting into the solid shapes that we created so that it looks like it's fur. And that's how we do it. We kind of cut into the white. And there's more fur underneath. And we're going to do that by shading around the edge of it like so. And kind of almost creating what looks a little bit like a beard. Our owl has a beard. And then shading a bit underneath the beak. How are y'all doing so far? Doing okay? Oh, wow, Catherine, that looks beautiful. Wow. Great, Ashley. Good. Just wanted to check in. I know it's a lot of kind of intense work and it's a little tedious, but hopefully you're finding it fun. This is the stuff I could sit here and do for like 4 hours, right? Add some colored pencil and I'm gone for like 6 hours. All right, maybe not that long anymore, but maybe like 4. Okay, so we're coming back now to this area. We're gonna start inside the eye for a few seconds here, more than a few seconds. And we're gonna create the line that's going, it's basically the highlight inside the eye. So we're going to do kind of like a line like this, like a double line like that. And then from that, we're going to create the pupil. And our pupil, because the eye is kind of turning towards this way, our pupil is shaped like this. And then you can fill in around that line, and you want to get dark since that's the pupil. The pupil is darker towards this area, towards the owl. And then it gets just slightly lighter along the edge. I'm just going to kind of show that. So if you look, it's a lot darker towards the bridge of the nose. And then around the eye, just going to fix my shape of the eye a little bit here. I want my eyelid to be a little more like that. Yep. Okay, so now, and then around the eye, you also want to use almost black in order to shape around the outside of the eye, so the eyeball. And then you can start to shade in the actual eyeball area and make it a little bit lighter, but with some kind of specks. So it's going to look like something like that. And then we also want to start to shade around the eyelid. Just a little bit of shading. And then going around the actual eye area, but keeping that shape that we created right here, kind of like that almost side teardrop shape. And then just shading a little more inside the eye to make it a little bit darker. And just really focusing on that shape. And then doing a light shading into the bearded area. I'm going to call it kind of like the bearded area. Right underneath the eye. And our owl is starting to take shape now. So we're now going to come back up to the head area all around this section. And we're going to start creating that to look more realistic. So we're going to come over here and we're going to be making a little bit of some shaping of the hair or the fur. I keep saying hair. It's fur. And so I'm shading lightly and making it look, there's short strokes again. And we're going to start coming in here to create little patches of dark fur, like so. So I'm gonna just show that up close. So we're gonna start making those areas going down towards the beak. And sometimes it's a little darker, sometimes it's a little lighter. So I'm just gonna show you the original. And that's where, you know, when I show you, you know, doing kind of like light scribbling, I call it scribbling, and then a little darker on top of it, that's what gives you that realism. And the same with adding, you know, we're going to be adding the little dots of shading for the fur. So that's what I'm talking about when we're kind of doing light scratching, medium, darker, that sort of thing. So getting back now to the head, we're going to be adding again. Now we're going to do a little bit lighter. And we're kind of going in a almost roundish, almost like imagining if there were kind of like a round lines, curved lines going here. And then we're going to be going down towards the beak, and then it gets a little darker again. And then we can go back and add little parts that are darker. And more fur-like. And then as we're getting towards the tree, you want to make some shading right up against on the fur, kind of towards, you know, in between where the tree is, because there would be a bit of a shadow and the fur is a little bit darker here. And then as we get, now we're on the right side of the beak. We want to make that beak a little darker on the outside edge of it, and then shade in the beak. So there's a highlight kind of in the middle of the beak, and then it gets a little darker on the point. There's also some dark fur right here on the right side, and you can extend that little shading in the fur going down the body here, kind of this sort of shape. And then we're going to go back and just focus a bit more into the feathering, the white feathering here. And we want to add some very subtle kind of shading right here to the left of the beak. And then at the bottom, we want to add some subtle shading, and we want it to get a little darker on the edges, just a little bit. Like so. And then we're going to start to now go back up to around the eye area. And we're going to just round out this area right here just a bit. So we just want to lightly erase so that this now becomes kind of a little bit of a straightish curved line. And we're now going to start to create the fur, make it furry on the end. And the way we do that is we take our pencil and we do light, short strokes along that edge. And we're going to do that down this part of the body. And we're going to start to kind of cut into the fur with our pencil, like so, using some darker strokes here. So I'm going down the side here. And starting to really fill out the part of the owl that's defining that body shape. And as you can see, it's looking more like fur. And then we're going to start to add some darker shading. We're going to go in a little bit. And now we're going to add another kind of layer of fur here. We're going to do the same thing with our shading. It's subtle, but there is another indication of fur. We're now going to go back up towards the eye, or the left of the eye, and we're just going to add some kind of short little dots, almost like strokey dots. I just made that up, so I'm not sure if that makes sense. Sort of like we're kind of shading, but also doing it a little concentrated so it comes out dot-like. Does that make sense? I don't know if there's a term for that. So we're attempting to recreate the texture on the fur, you know, the different colors. And we're going to continue to do that going towards the wing. So adding little short light strokes. So this is the wing right here, remember? And then we can start to do a little bit of shading right above the wing, light shading. And then again, getting into finishing up the fur in this section, we want those sort of little more than dots now. We're doing kind of scribbly strokes. In that fur. Now we're going to go into the wing. You may have to kind of redefine your wing by just making it a little bit darker, not by much. And we start to create the shapes inside that wing. So these are shaded areas of longer, sort of longer shaded areas, like so. And it's kind of scribbly because we're trying to get that, get that idea of the fur. And also there's more shading that comes where the trunk, that kind of the tree is. So it against it, you can kind of add some more dark scribbling towards there. And as we go down towards the bottom is when we get into that area that we made sort of a long kind of oval-like shape. And now we start to do some more shading because we're getting into the tree trunk that is kind of around, around the wingspan. And there's a kind of tree hole right here. And this is where we really start to kind of exercise those, different shadings going from light to medium to dark and some medium darks in between. And then our final step is going to be now going into the tree. So let me lift this up a bit. And we're going to grab our tortillon for this part. And we're going to start to smooth out just a little bit our tree trunk areas. So going up against the outside line and then kind of fading everything with the second line, but staying on the side of the tree. So we don't want to get the tortillon in where the owl is because we want that mark making to stay. But we're shading along the edge of the tree. And then we're also going to be shading the marks that we made, sort of the shaded marks that we made. And then we're going to be sketching on top of those to finish up. So now we're just taking that tortillon and we're just adding or smoothing out some of those areas in the tree and also along the edge where the owl is hiding. So we're just kind of blending those out. And then we're going to start our final mark making for this. If you need to sharpen your pencil, you can. I like mine to be a little bit sharp for this part. And we're going to be using our eraser a little bit too, just to start taking away some of the dark parts and adding a little bit of light. Okay, so we're going to start up here in this section, and we're going to start adding some scribbly. So I'm going to go in even closer now so you can really see what I'm doing here. We're going to start making this area a little darker. Go up a little bit. And then coming up here, we're going to make another kind of scratchy area in the tree. And going upward, we're going to go a little bit lighter. So we're making these kind of lighter areas combined with some darker ones in order to give that texture to the tree. Then we're going to redefine this area here. And we're now going to come down here right against the owl. And we're going to make a kind of scratchy shape that looks like this. So the tree is indenting a bit. And then we have some scratchy lines to the right of it that are short, kind of short strokes going from left to right. And remember, we kind of talked about cross hatching. And then you want to kind of do some cross hatching going the other way, but sort of tilted. Just going to show that up close. And now we're going to start to go a little darker in this area on top of the mark we made, the big mark we kind of made in the tree right here. We're going to go darker. Let me move my camera up a little bit so you can see the whole thing. And then coming back over the scratchy part, we're making some of that a little bit darker. And getting into the tree, the whole area, we're going to start adding some light curved scratching all down the tree, like so. It's very subtle. I'm going from left to right. And then this is where we then want to start to add our final scratchy parts where we make some of it darker, more scratchy. And this is where you can really get some texture by playing with your mark making, going from left to right as you're scratching. Going up and down as you're adding some dents in the tree. And then adding some lighter areas by just kind of scratching those in with your pencil. And then if anything needs to be lightened up, I'm looking at kind of this part towards the top of my owl in the tree. And I just want to lighten up just a little bit some of the parts where I'd like a little more light to be in. Voila. We have our owl, and I now want to see what yours looks like. So I'm going to take my spotlight off. And oh, wow. Catherine, that's beautiful. And Kathy and Joanne, Jean, oh my gosh. I want to just quickly spotlight some of these. Catherine, that's beautiful. Gorgeous. Okay, let me see what else we have. Charlene, oh my goodness. Oh, wow, beautiful. It's great. Let me see, Joanne. You're next, Joanne. Oh, wow, beautiful. Oh, I love how I love the all your intentional markings of the owl. That's really beautiful. Let me see who else do we have here. Oh my gosh, look at all these. All right, Kevin, let's see. Gorgeous. Wow. Nice. I love the lights and the medium tones you got. Beautiful. Let me see. Joanne, who else? Oh, wow. Helen. Oh, wow. Beautiful, Helen. That's really lovely. Where am I going? Let's see. Who else? Alana. Let's see. Oh, wow. Oh, two of them. Beautiful. Oh, wow. I love how you're all really getting into the subtle shading. It really does make a difference in your drawings. Oh, Ashley, let me see. All right. Spotlighting you. Let's see. Oh, did I spotlight you? Let's see. Here we go. Oh my gosh, gorgeous. Marcia, can you show yours again? I'm sorry.
That's
now-
okay. I can't tell.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. Yeah, you guys are doing really well with the spotlighting of the oh, Adeline, your camera's not working. I'm sorry. Beautiful. I'm just going to show you one more time. This one. Beautiful. Beautiful, Ashley. Gorgeous. Joanne. Let me see. Lorraine, were you showing yours? I'm sorry. I see Francesca. So I'm going to add you. Let's see. Gorgeous. Oh, wow. I love the subtleness. Let me see, anyone else? Sorry. Thanks, Catherine. I'm happy you enjoyed the class. Bye. Beautiful job, everyone. Oh my gosh. These are gorgeous. Please take a picture and send these in if you can. And I'm gonna just put my my information here. Again, I'm Anita Thompson of Art Venture Workshops. I know most of you know me, but for those that are new, would love to have you get the weekly newsletter where I highlight all of the links for the libraries. I also ask you to, check out the libraries online as well, because they have a lot of other really cool programs. Not just the drawing ones, but just lots of really cool stuff. So, and thank you to Chrissy of Feasterville Library for picking this program, and also Feasterville for sponsoring it. Thank you so much.
I'm trying to find our next class to let everybody know if you don't know. So we're doing them on Saturdays,
Yes.
January through June. So our next one, oh boy, it's showing me the whole county. No, I don't need the whole county, just Feasterville.
The ladybug. Ladybug.
I think it's
The next one is the ladybug on the leaf, and that's going to be Saturday, February 18th at 10:30. Let me see if I can grab a picture of that.
Yeah, and that one's colored pencil. So basic colored pencils. And we'll be using what we learned, doing this. You can apply the same thing to colored pencils. Yeah. Thanks. I agree. I think everyone did great. These look amazingly realistic. So good.
I like mine.
I like yours too.
I like everybody's.
I know. They're wonderful.
They are good. It's great.
Yeah, thank you for spotlighting. That was fun to see everybody else's.
Yeah, I just started doing that because I realized not everybody gets to see, depending on, where you're at, what you're doing. Thanks, Gail. Okay, Chrissy put the link in the chat for the registration, for the sign up for the colored pencil ladybug.
Regular milk.
You know what? I think I'm gonna put the March one in there too, because the March one is the registration is gonna open when we have the next class, because it's an acrylic painting one. But that's what that one looks like too. That's gonna be a spring mountain painting class on.
Yeah.
So if you come to the next class, it's gonna open that day to register, just because we'll have some supplies, but it'll be a limited number, so.
Yeah, I was just looking to see if I had it with me right now.
There's the ladybug.
What's that?
I just saw the picture of the ladybug.
Oh, thank you. I like ladybugs. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Let me stop the recording.